Hello and welcome to the Lund University International Podcast. On the show, you'll hear from current students, alumni, researchers, professors, and many more special guests as we explore what it's really like to live, study, and work at Lund University in Sweden, a world top 100 university. My name is Tim Parker, and I am an International Communications Officer at External Relations. Today, we're diving into the world of The Conversation, a platform that brings academic research to a global audience. 2025 has already been a standout year with record-breaking engagement. But how does a researcher write an article for The Conversation? It's a chance to connect research with a wider public, often leading to media coverage and public discussions. We'll explore how Lund University supports researchers in this exciting initiative and how prospective students can gain valuable insights into our research environment. Stay tuned to learn more about the impact of The Conversation and some of Lund University's most read pieces. And with us today, we have Ellen. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ellen, what do you do at Lund University?
Yeah, what do? I do a lot of things. I work with research communication at the university-wide Central Communications Department, and I work with The Conversation as a coordinator for the membership of Lund University. So I work with supporting and developing Lund University participation in The Conversation. And Conversation is an international media platform that allows researchers to share their expertise, highlight their latest research, and provide analysis on current events and global issues.
Okay, sounds like you have a pretty enviable job.
Yeah, it's so much fun, I would say. Yeah, it's very exciting. It's something new every day. Yeah.
So, and it's your job to stay up to date on all the exciting research that's happening at Lund University.
Yeah, and a lot of people, we are a lot of communications officers working at Lund University, so we work together and get very much help from people working like in research environments in different parts of the university. We have 9 faculties, so it's a lot to keep up on. So, and we get like expert requests every day, The Conversation asking about, they want an academic to write about something, like in the current affairs, like something happened now. Trump is going to Greenland. Do we have an historian who can say something about early colonization of Greenland, for example?
I have to also ask now, what is your academic background? Because you really do, I can imagine in your position, you need to have like a broad perspective.
Yeah. I studied political science and human rights and journalism. So I think, and Lund University is so much more. So it's more about being, for me, though, being interested and curious in what's happening in different ways. Mm-hmm. So curiosity is really the thing. And I think it's also a plus not to know everything about everything. Because if you know everything about medicine and going to write about it, you might have a very complex level. But I don't know that much about medicine. So if I write something about medicine, then you can also understand it. So I think that could be a plus also, just having a little bit of information about a lot of stuff and not being too deep down. Because academics, they're deep down, but we can keep on the surface of it.
Fantastic. So The Conversation is a forum and a website for academics to publish news articles. Yeah. And Lund University is one of the participating institutions, but I can imagine that there's hundreds or maybe thousands of universities with researchers contributing to The Conversation, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of, I don't have the actual number how many, but they have editorial boards and desks in different parts of the world. It started out in Australia, and they also have, we're members of The Conversation UK, and they also have a desk in the US, they have in France, Spain, and Brazil, Indonesia. I'm probably forgetting some, but they're all over. And they also translate, because sometimes we have an article in English and then we get it in Portuguese, for example, or Indonesian.
Got you. All right. So basically, it's a huge international forum, and Lund University is very much a part of sharing research on this forum.
Yes.
Fantastic. So if there's any future students out there that are wanting to see the type of research that's published at Lund University, The Conversation would be a good place for them to go.
Yeah, it would be a good place for them to go, because there's so many different subjects that you can dive into. But if you have different interests, it could be like arts and culture, business and economy, always science and tech, for example. So very different desks within The Conversation. So they have much about everything in research or commentary on current affairs or timeless pieces. Also, like, why do we celebrate Christmas, or, stuff like that.
And I'm curious, what kind of numbers do articles receive? The readers, I mean. How many readers do we have per article on the conversation?
Yeah, they count on the views of each article, and it really much depends. We have had articles with like a couple of thousands of views, and I mean, that's good. But we also had articles with hundreds of thousands of views. So it depends. If you look in average for the year of 2024, we had something like 28,000 views per article.
Okay.
But that means some articles get a lot, so it bring it up a bit. So yeah.
Exactly. And 2025 has been a pretty good year for the conversation. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's been good. We started out. It feels like something in Swedish. You say like "proppen gick ur." I don't know this with the English. But like something happened very quickly. Okay. Maybe the ketchup effect could work in English. Yeah. So we had like in the first quarter of the year, had something like 27 published articles with 500,000 reads. So that's very good. And we had a really good article in the late 2024. I think it came in December. And it had like something like 200,000 views in December, but then actually 100,000 more in January. So it really keeps ticking for a while. And it was about how your brain looks if you're a reader. And I think a lot of people who are readers went like, oh, this is so fun. How will my brain look? Because people love reading about themselves. And I mean, they like to read and they like to talk about reading. So I think that may be a recipe for success.
It also sounds like our researchers at Lund University are getting international visibility.
Yeah. That's the strategy or the goal. But it also depends. We had one article with a researcher, Felix Schultz, and he did an article about German election and about climate crisis being not being mentioned in the German election. And he didn't get that many views on the article, but he actually turned up in CNN. So it was very good. CNN being, it's a very good impact. We're very happy when our academics are in major outlets like CNN, BBC, The Guardian, big magazines. And we also had one, Tony Ingesson, who had an article about military conscription returning to Europe, also being a very current affairs issue. And he was in France 24, and it's actually a very big French television channel. So it's very good impact also. So that's just two examples.
That's exciting.
That's very exciting. We're very happy about that.
And writing for the conversation is often the first step to get picked up in a bigger international outlet like The Guardian or CNN or something?
Yeah, it could be. But we also had another article like last summer about potential connections between having tattoos and getting a certain type of cancer. And actually, I must say it's a very, very small risk. So even though you say it's a risk, the risk goes up. It goes up from very small numbers. So they can see, and it's not sure that it's more of a causation. Yeah, it's very complicated, but you shouldn't be worried if you have tattoos. So that's my message.
Okay.
Yeah, but actually, we went out with a press release, and the conversation was very happy and wanted the article. So actually, the press release went first, and then the article. But often it's the other way around, I would say. Yeah.
And I can assure you there's people listening out there, future students and maybe even some current students, or even researchers perhaps here at Lund University who are wondering, how does a researcher write an article for the conversation?
Yeah, there are some different paths to do this. Okay. I mean, sometimes an academic go through the pitch form. They have a pitch form where you can just send in your pitch about an article. You're not supposed to write done articles, send it in. You have to write the idea down in a couple of sentences. You can also, sometimes the editors on the conversation contact me or any of my colleagues and say, oh, we want something on this. And that's also another way. And each day there's an email, an expert request when they want people to come and write something for them. And then when we get this email, we can try to look, do we have anyone on this? Like revisiting the classics. Like someone can write about the book or a film in a new way, or something that happens with Trump and Greenland being all over the news, or Ukraine or Israel, Palestine, and so forth. Yeah, Halloween. Yeah,
next Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So just going back to how the conversation helps connect researchers to a wider audience beyond academia. Could you tell us more? How does that happen?
Yeah, the conversation, they had this kind of other survey couple of years ago, and they reached out to academics that had been published in Conversation and asked them how did it go. But they really tried to like figure out what happens after the article in different ways. And they actually had half of the people writing that got contacted by media. So that's a pretty high number.
Half of the people that wrote for the Conversation got contacted by the media.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we have that kind of numbers in Sweden. I think maybe it's easier for English-speaking British academics, but it's still a very good number. And like something like 1/5 got invited to speak at conferences or events. And that's something we heard also from our academics that they have. Someone told me about he got invited to a academic conference and also got invited to work in a research collaboration. And for the academics, for me, CNN and BBC is like on the top of the list. But for a researcher, I think research collaboration, financement, and also conference invitations are higher. So I usually mentioned it when I talk to researchers. And also being contacted by NGOs and charities, and also businesses and industry and government representatives, depending on what it is. We had one contacted by the UN, for example. I mean, they're very happy with this because then they can use it in your future research and maybe have a person to interview or reference in this anyway.
Exactly, just like build and expanding your academic and professional network.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you mentioned we've had an article recently about the German elections, which got picked up by CNN. Yeah. Any other articles which have got wider media attention or public engagement that you want to lift?
So one example is Moa Pattersen. She's at the Humanities, Faculty of Humanities, and she wrote, this was an expert request. They wanted someone to write about microchips being inserted in the skin. This was pretty big a couple of years ago. And actually Sweden were pretty in the front on this one. A lot of people were actually getting chips implanted under the skin. And she was approached and she said, okay, I can write about this. It's not exactly what I work with, but it's very close and I can do a piece. And this got like hundreds and thousands of views. It's one of our best read articles. She actually got a book deal out of this.
No.
Yeah. So she was very happy. And actually she also told me that she was very big in Christian circles in the US. I don't have every detail, but apparently it's something with a microchip being inserted that is something doing with the devil somehow. So they actually read her article in different Christian book clubs. So it was, I used this as an example that you can be very big in something that maybe you don't want to. The thing that if you write in the Conversation and your article get this popular, you kind of lose control. So you have to be really ready for it. But the book deal was very good.
Yes.
Yeah. And the media attention also. Yeah.
So be careful when you're writing for the Conversation.
Yeah, but I think it's our job to really prepare people for this. That if you are going to be up on the scene that is media, anything can happen. And I think also working with social media or anything, that if you put someone out there, you have to really prepare for it and help them if something goes wrong.
Yes.
Very important.
We've had instances of things written on social media going viral, to say the least.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly. Yeah.
Are there any other reasons that you would like to tell us about, other than the ones that you've already mentioned, as to why it's important for researchers at Lund University to contribute to the Conversation?
For Lund University, it's very important to be an international university in different ways, and it's really hard in the international competition to stand out. So we can send out press releases and we can try in different ways to highlight our research. But we have seen that the Conversation is maybe the most successful way to do it. And it's also, I think it's very good for the academics themselves because they learn a lot from working with an editor and actually writing about their own research. I think it's something you can use in other instances as well. So it's both a way to do some kind of international impact and also some kind of training, I would say, to work with your text and think about the research and writing in some other way than you're used to when you only write in academic texts.
And what about those prospective students that are listening to this pod somewhere across the world? How can the Conversation help them get an insight into Lund University's research environment?
Yeah, I think it's a way to see that Lund University is really a university with a lot of things going on. I mean, it's everything from, the German election that you talked about, the microchips. It's a lot of different things, also about the biology of things and the latest on Trump. We have a lot of different things, and it's not only the political science commenting on current affairs, but also a way to get a view of the the research in different ways. And I think whatever your interest, you will find something you like in the conversation concerning arts, culture, politics, international affairs. It's they have a lot.
Yeah, they do, and so do we. And for the people that are listening to this pod that don't know, Lund University is a comprehensive university. So we have 9 faculties covering an extensive range of research areas. We have 140 international degree programs, many more Swedish programs. We don't just specialize in one area. So you might come to the conversation and you might not get overwhelmed, but you might prepare to be impressed at the breadth of our research portfolio, I would say.
Exactly. And that's why it's so luxurious and fun, as you talked about in the beginning, to work with this, because you learn a lot every day. And I mean, we have everything from, like, we had something about dinosaurs, the skin of dinosaurs, and people were looking at that. And we have so many things, so it's very exciting. You learn something every day working with research communication at Lund University.
Yes, you definitely do. I've been working here at Lund University now for about 7 years, and you're still discovering new departments, and researchers and faculties, and you're like, I didn't know Lund University did that, and we have an office in Brussels, and we have researchers everywhere, and there's just so many things going on.
Yeah, I'm amazed every day. Yeah,
8,000 staff, 40,000-ish students. Yeah, it's a lot of people at university.
Really.
How does Lund University support researchers who are writing for the conversation?
We can support them in different ways. To have support information at our staff pages, for example. We do workshops, and sometimes the conversation comes here and have a workshop with the academics who want to learn more. Also, me and my colleagues work with the pitches. Like, if they have an idea, we can discuss it in different ways, because having the eyes for what works. I mean, like the angle, what should they focus on the idea? Because when you work with research, like, you have so many things going on. Like, if you do a dissertation, for example, if you have doing a PhD, it's maybe 400 pages, and what should you do in a pitch for 3 sentences?
Yes.
So it's really hard to find. So we can help them find what's interesting in their research.
Yeah. Exactly. Great point. Writing a short article is slightly different to writing a really rigorously researched thesis or academic article.
Yeah, and it's a whole other. Often you say that you have to, if you do an academic paper, you have to put it like upside down if you're going to write a popular science article. Because if you do an academic paper, you start with the background and you work yourself through every parts of the article. But if you write something in the conversation, you have to start with what's interesting. And that's usually in the end. So the background, you have to move the background very late on in the article. And that's, I think, for many researchers, something new. They don't think about that. They often start with the background, and then the article gets very heavy. And you want to go right through to what's interesting.
That's where you come in.
That's our expertise, yes.
And there are quite a lot of instances of interesting research. So I thought maybe we could take a look at some of the most impactful articles from Lund University. So one article which caught a lot of people's attention was the one you mentioned earlier. People who are good at reading have different brains.
Yes. Yeah.
Good to know. I like reading.
It's a good. It's a cognition scientist, Michael Roll, who looked actually at the brains and in readers and non-readers, and it's a very technical article, so it's pretty hard to when you read it to understand. But I think people they liked the angle of it, that they have a different brain if you're a reader. I think it hit a chord somehow.
Nice.
Yes.
All right. And there was another article which caught a lot of people's attention about how U.S. pressure has forced Panama to quit China's Belt and Road Initiative, and it could set the pattern for future superpower clashes. Wow, that's more geopolitics, internationalization.
Yeah, this was actually a result of an expert request when they wanted someone to write about this. And we had a researcher, I have to find her name, I don't have it in. We have a researcher, Tabitha Rosendahl, who's actually an expert on, I think it is China. So she wrote this article like a commentary. She's a PhD student, and it got something like 50,000 reads.
Oh, wow.
So it's very, very well read. And I think it's because she had a unique angle to the conflict concerning Panama and China and US and some kind of geopolitical issue of it all. Yeah.
So the picture I'm getting just going through these stories is how broad our researcher base is as well, both Swedish and international. Lund is really, really international.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very international. And I think when we have someone like Tabitha Rosendahl, who's actually an expert on China, it's pretty unique to have someone who have this kind of angle. I have another example. We have Martin Sundqvist, who actually this was also an expert request because he's very good at coat of arms, like in the heraldica, it's called in Swedish. So when they wanted, I don't know if you remember, but it was a kind of a big media thing when Denmark changed their royal coat of arms. They removed. I think this might be a bit not. I don't think the people around the world know about this.
Yes, it was a big thing here in Scandinavia.
It was a big thing in Scandinavia because they removed the 3 crowns, and this is a symbol of Sweden that they actually removed from their royal coat of arms. And then we had this man who is actually an expert on Scandinavian coat of arms, so he's perfect. So when I saw this expert request, it was like they don't have anyone. I felt like this is a gift to the conversation because they can't find anyone that's this good. So it's often when we have someone here that has some kind of expertise, so we can like compete in the international competition of things. So he was also one of those.
Nice. And another great article which actually caught my interest as well, did quite well on social media. Why did life evolve to be so colorful? Research is starting to give us some answers.
Yeah, this was Jonathan Goldenberg. He works at the biology department.
Okay.
Yeah, it did good in social media. Often, like animals is very popular. People like animals. I think that might be my short answer to it.
Another article which did well, which perhaps can make people feel a little bit pessimistic, is about how sustainability ideals are often crushed by corporate demands, but then also here's how businesses can let them flourish.
This was an article from the School of Economics and Management, and so it was good because we don't usually get articles in the Business and Economy department. So this was good. This was an article about how business could work with sustainability managers, if I remember correctly, to work with sustainability ideals, like a strategy to work with sustainability in different ways in companies. So It was pretty niche. Did it did well on social media?
Yes, it got some attention. I can't remember the exact numbers.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
And one more which caught also my attention, which I thought would be good to bring out, which was very interesting, is how spiders smell with their legs.
Yes. I thought
Do they?
Yeah, they do. I thought it was very funny. We had a PhD student at the workshop with Miriam Frankel, who is editor of The Conversation, and she pitched this, and I was like, wow, this is mind-blowing. But I thought it was really fun to look at spiders and how they smell with their legs. It's very fun. It's also in the category of we love animals. Animals are fun. Yes.
And there you go. In those few short examples that we just raised, we have everything from how reading changes your brain, U.S. relations with Panama and China, why life is colorful, sustainability ideals in business, and how spiders smell with their legs. So that's just a little snapshot, but that does give you a slight insight into just how rich and comprehensive the research being conducted at Lund University is.
Yes, it's a very good mix actually to show the breadth of it all. We have a lot of different things.
Have we missed anything, Ellen? Is there something else that we should talk about?
I can mention another article that was just published the other day that was really interesting also and got a lot of attention. It was about China. In China, because in the 80s, when they could just have one child in China in like 80s, 90s, and the beginning of this century. So they picked to have a boy in different ways because of the ultrasound techniques. And then this was an article about the women. They don't have enough women in China. So the people want to get married. The men want to get married, but they can't find a woman. Because their women are fewer than they should be, and also because they don't want to marry. So they have a gap here. And then we had an academic, Ming Gao, and he has written a couple of articles, but actually he could write about personal experience. And I think that's really valuable and something the conversation also they like, because as an academic, you have some kind of personal experience. You could say like, oh, my classmates in school, they also want to find someone to marry. And so I think that's really valuable when you have a mix of perspectives also. And it was a very good article, I would say. It got a lot of reads with the Chinese marriage issues. Yes.
I'm happy that it got a lot of reads.
Yes.
And I'm happy that everything is getting a lot of reads.
Everything is getting a lot of reads. Yes.
If our listeners want to dive into the conversation themselves, can they Google the conversation or should they go to Lund University?
They can Google the conversation, and if they're interested in articles from Lund University, they can just Google the conversation Lund University, and they will find our page with every article from Lund University. And of course, they can also go to the front page. But if they want to see what we have, they can go to Lund University at conversation. Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for today, Ellen.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was very fun.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Lund University International Podcast. If you're interested in learning more about Lund University, you can go to our website, lunduniversity.lu.se. You can also follow us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and X. And you can connect with our amazing student ambassadors on Unibuddy. Don't forget to subscribe, and we look forward to bringing you a new episode very soon.